Beware of colonizers. Beware of colonizers. Now, before I get too far into this video, I apologize for the lighting. I'm in Kumasi right now, and at particular times, especially when it rains, there are frequent blackouts. So I am lighting this video, as you can see, with a little light. The camera won't switch around right now. Little light, portable light, rechargeable light. So it's just as well, because I haven't gotten a chance to get to the dental office, and my smile ain't kicking too much right now. So I can move my lips without my grill being seen too much. Anyway, though, my opening comment would make a lot of you think automatically that I am talking about a particular group of people from the European nations. And I am not. You see, colonization, subjugating of the will of man, and ruling over men and overpowering men and getting into men's imaginations has been a practice evil that was present in the earth long before the so-called slave trades, the mini slave trades, the different form of slave trading that is going on now. And you got to understand something. People are still traumatized across the world by what took place during the period that I'm talking about, where men were subjugating the wills of men and people were enslaving people long before the Europeans enslaved people. Case in point, and I'm going to go into that book now that many people are ignorantly stumbling over. And the reason why people are stumbling over that book is because they were introduced to that book at the hands of, you guess it, a European. The European nations, the European men, are infamous for doing what they do with everything: manipulating, plagiarizing, taking the content and trying to reproduce the essence of any culture, any literature, and even persons, and then sell it to you. Taking the essence of any culture, any literature, any person, and trying to sell it to you. Selling it back to you after they have plagiarized it and made it theirs in your mind. They know they never possess it. They don't possess anything. They are not here to own and possess anything. Ownership of all things created is yours. But you'll never own anything, and you'll never possess anything if you don't deal with the trauma that exists in you, that is connected to how you were colonized. As a matter of fact, you're being colonized right now. And as a matter of fact, if you are attempting to subjugate anyone's imagination any way, in any shape, form, or fashion. See, I'm going to get away from discussing the Bible and philosophical stuff and spiritual stuff and Christianity, Judaism, Islam, African spirituality, African American religion. I'm going to get away from all of that. And I'm going to talk to you about what we all are functioning in today, especially on these social media platforms. We are on social media platforms invading people's imaginations with our thoughts. And the only time you're not doing that is when you are declaring who you are. And though you may be accurate and though you may be factual in some of the things you're saying, because nobody is 100% holding knowledge about anything that they're saying. The colonizers have just tricked you into thinking that you can be in that position. And no man on the planet is in that position because the days are revealed beyond your ability to think into them, to conclude what they will bring and what has always been, and what will be, though it is not in manifestation, has been before what always been was known to you. Before what has always been was known to you. And if that sounds like mumbo jumbo to you, it's because you probably think you need to have a handle on everything right now. But it's very true what I'm saying, because see, none of us holds tomorrow. None of us can determine what will happen tomorrow, and no matter what we have heard, none of us has the emotional impact and total integrity of any circumstance, situation, or person that existed in the past, because we weren't there. So to my point, if you can follow me, the only time you are not being an image, mind subjugating colonizer is when you are declaring who you are and what you believe and what you know. When you attempt to hold hands with several schools of thought as you attempt to get on social media and tell people who they are and who they are not, and become narcissistic in 15 minutes or however long you choose to create your broadcast, and disregard a person's existence and many people who are preeminent above you because they are your elders. You have not walked in their shoes. You'll probably never meet them this side of the coming of the Most High's kingdom, and it's coming. And you have no emotional connection, no psychological connection, and no compassionate connection to their experience and who they are. And until you can get on social media and recognize all of that before you open your mouth and address anyone, attempting to detail who they are, attempting to conclude that they are where you once were, you're not anything but a menace, an annoyance. You see, It took me 67 years. No, I'm not going to say 67 years because I haven't been on the internet that long. I would say it took me 17 years to figure out, being on social media platforms, that I could use this as an opportunity to purely connect with people beyond the distance, beyond all of the data and the spiritual contamination that occurs on these social platforms. It took me 17 years to figure out and to realize that it was important to determine what I want to be on here. Do I want to be who I am on here, or do I want to be what social media makes me? And I cannot determine what someone else is doing on social media. I may have my opinion about it, but I can't determine what they're doing, and I can't certainly advise them on what they should be doing. The only thing that I can truly determine, the only thing that I can truly declare on here without being a menace, without being insensitive, narcissistic personage or representation on social media, the only way I can keep from being any of that is to declare who I am, and I am, and what I am doing. And then do something that we all must do, no matter how much we talk. Let time reveal. Was the bard say, I know just how you feel, but this time love is real. In time it will reveal the special feelings deep inside of us will all reveal in time. Let time reveal. You got to decide whether you're going to be on here getting clicks, generating revenue, gaining popularity, or whether or not you're going to declare who you are. You see, I've attempted to speak about who I am in the presence of people across the social media, and I'm bidded in to do that when I see someone discuss our plight. And I'll give you a case in particular. I'm not going to drop names. I'm not going to do call letters. I'm not going to do channel identification for two reasons. I don't want anyone saying that I am attaching myself to them and I am trying to get clout out of what their content is. And number two, I don't want the algorithm of me going back and forth with someone. And I don't want anyone to get, excuse me, to get any cockfighting, internet notoriety because they feel like they've pushed a button. And so they can take the content and the energy and the exchange between two people that don't know each other and will probably never meet each other, but we're dealing with these electronic images and we're giving out our opinions. So somebody says something that sizzles. Okay, here we go. Let me bring it in more specifically. Everybody gets on social media and feels that they are some sort of authoritative voice concerning the plot of the Israelites. Oh, here I come. That Hebrew, that negus. Yes. And they identify us. Remember now, I'm talking about me. Oh, see, now you're doing what you said people do at the beginning of the video. No, I am not. I am speaking clearly about individuals who have declared themselves or who have put themselves forth as an authority concerning who we are, the Israelites. Everybody and their uncle wants to declare who we are. And it's a colonization mindset. And it started long before Ari Spears's ever famous, "Yeah, the white man." Ari Spears was making a joke. And I'm not going to say it now because in case there are any people in who are native to the land that I am currently residing in, facetiously, I would say, called Africa. I don't want to be offensive, but Ari Spears had a joke about how many, not all, but many Africans look at us. Many Africans, especially since I've been here on this continent, many Africans, they despise us because they think being in America, we've had some privilege that they have not had. Now, believe me, please, I'm not talking about all people in the region. I'm not talking about everyone. I am only talking about many that I have encountered. There's a general thought. There's an automatic assumption that we are Americans. And because we were born in a land that our ancestors were dropped off in, we have something that they desire, that they envy, that they think we carry with pride as we come here. And it makes absolutely no sense at all if you look at the equation of our existence here in Africa. If I have something that you don't have, if I am someone that thinks I am better than or more advantaged than you because I am an American, and I do say quote unquote, then what sense does it make for me to be over here in Africa? And what do you think about me? What kind of dummy do you think I am to have something worthy of you being envious of me, worthy of you despising me? What kind of fool do you think I am to have that, but to come over here and be with you, around you? The trauma of the colonized mind. The trauma of the colonized mind. I haven't put a title on this video because it's not alive, but I think I'm going to put that on there. The trauma of the colonized mind. Okay, so here we go. Think about it. Think about it. Because a lot of you, now I'm talking specifically to the people in Africa who I consider my relatives. You know, some of you talk to us and you don't realize how colonized you are in your thinking and how you don't give us the benefit of the doubt that we are people just like you who have never been free, at least in our immediate location, to live without the influence of someone who does not mean us any good. And for us to be in Ghana or Nigeria or Togo or Chad or anywhere, and to be comparing traumas, to be comparing experiences, so much so that whenever we counter one another, it is not a pure, compassionate encounter. It's competitive. It's jaunting. It's jockeying. And in some cases, it's pure, straight up subjugation, an attempt to enslave and subdue the imagination of another person. And so, rather than letting one another declare who we are, respectively, person to person, there's a need to constrain the dialogue into your narrative and to be disrespectful, dishonoring, and make narcissistic, unfounded statements about a person's mental capacity, understanding of truth and reality, and a total disregard for an experience that they have had with their creator that does not include you and that does not have any respect for you subjugating your opinion against their spirit. Because that's what you're talking to when you're talking to another person. You may be looking at the flesh, you may be looking at the location they came from, the language they speak, how ugly, how cute, how privileged in your frame of thinking, or how underprivileged they are. And you may be drawing your assessment, but you're carnal. You're walking after the flesh. Because when you encounter another person, you're looking at someone who is created in the image of the one who created them. And last I checked, he's doing a pretty good job of performing his work in them without your assistance. You see, until we get a grasp on every man's ability, man is both male and female, okay? So don't any of you trip off of that statement. Until we get a grasp on every man's ability to stand in the authority of his person, his experience, and his faith, until we get a grasp on that, guess what we're going to be doing? We're going to keep creating atmospheres for dictators and colonizers to preside over our births, to license our births, to license your death, and then to take generations to spoil whole nations of people with backyard deals and using every arena possible, from medical institution to entertainment to that big two, politics and religion, to gain the confidence of people and colonize them. I mean, I've been in Africa for nearly 2 years. And I'm going to tell you something. We know about the European man, okay? We know about him. And we know his place in the earth. And we know his destiny and where he's headed. Okay, and I don't want to just assume that for everybody. So when I say we, I'm talking about the people who have declared themselves to be wise on the level that I think, and we agree. And then we know who we are. But we're going to have to get a handle on this colonizing that we have learned through our trauma. Back to my point, I have been on the continent for nearly 2 years. And I'm telling you, I see people here with the different titles that have been given to them. I know, that I don't want to be insulting or anything, but the borders, the titles, these were not constructed by Africans. There is a mindset here that is so racist and colonized, and it makes it possible for people to be against people that look like them. I was telling one person in a comment, and I don't think if they read it, I don't think they probably understood where I was coming from. I was declaring who I was because I had watched one of their videos that I enjoyed. And when I say I enjoy something, it doesn't mean everything that the person says in the video I agree with, or I'm clapping my hands and turning flips over. I can enjoy a video where a person is saying very contradictory things to what I believe. I can enjoy it because at my age, I have come to realize that you do not experience a full, you don't experience a full dose of what you believe and what you ascribe to until you have to exercise your reality and your truth in the midst of contradiction. And sometimes the best exercise can be you hearing or being exposed to something that totally contradicts what you believe and where you come from. And there is enough room in the universe and in your creation and in your life for you to behold that sort of thing, but not to be beholden by it. But again, directly to my point, I have seen so much attempt at control and colonization and a disregard for the person of myself, my family, and other diasporans who are on the continent. And it's an elephant in the room that no one wants to discuss. As a matter of fact, it's an elephant in a G string and flip flops. And no one wants to discuss it. And people want to discuss it if they can subdue your imagination and hold hands with everything written about the destiny of the people who things are evolving around as people ignore it. And I want to say to my African relatives, because history records that we are relatives. And a lot of you, you're really tripping. You're really tripping because just about everything that we read is in English. It's not in the tongue of the natives of Africa or any other land. And in particular, the men who are spreading and making the most money and getting the most revenue out of the Bible, which is not an original writing, are so-called white men. And they're not white, and we're not black, you know. And I think your stance against the English language being imposed on us, the Bible being imposed on us and all that, I think your stance is hypocritical. And if it's not hypocritical, I think it's ignorance. And ignorance is not a crime. Staying ignorant and being stiff-necked and refusing to hear, that's the problem. Oh, by the way, death to mosquitoes. Death to mosquitoes. They not paying no rent. They sucking everybody's blood. And they're all over the continent. And they got to go. But that's another energy for another time. Don't trip off me. You know you tired of in tum tum. Don't trip off me. So here we sit. And we are inflicting one another with the evil that was inflicted upon us. Never mind who sold us into slavery. Never mind who tried to fight to keep us from going into slavery. Never mind that we are either from the same branch, from the same branch of a tree or a different branch on a tree. Never mind. What is happening today among us? Are we gracious toward one another? Are we compassionate toward one another? Are we honoring one another? And there's many of you talking about honoring our ancestors. I'm going to ask you a question. What ancestor do you think I know that wants me honoring them more than I honor you? You see, to be honored, you must be honorable. Now, here's how I equate that, how it fits with our ancestors being worthy of honor. For you to tell someone that they should honor their ancestors, you have to demonstrate that you're an honorable person by not disrespecting them and not dishonoring them because of something they may not know. What if the people that you're talking to were removed from a knowledge of their ancestors? Because I can show you the book that says that's exactly what happened to my people. And see, I find it real strange that now that those of us who were kicked out of where we were in the persons of our ancestors, whether we were born there or whether we migrated there, like the book says, I find it very strange that 400 plus years connected to the time of the prophecy that said we would come to ourselves and we would start being prepared to be returned to our land, not by migration, not by an imitation from the natives of the land, but by our ancestor, the melanated, dark Messiah described in a writing in the book of history that describes the Most High's dealings with my ancestors. This is our hope and our prophecy, because no one in the earth has ever helped us and is not helping us now. And I find it very strange that people who are related to us during the time of our waking up, our coming to ourselves, and many of us are migrating away from a land of our captivity. And so many natives telling me that they want to go to America with me. And I tell them, well, you'll go there by yourself. You won't go there with me. I didn't come to I didn't come to Africa to start being popular as a Black American who has convoys of people going back to the place that I left. The book describes that as the land of our captivity. Now, if you want to go, have at it. But it tells me something. We're not on the same page. And then for those of you who attempt to do what in my mind is abominable and the unthinkable, for those of you who attempt to declare to me who I am not, and who my ancestors are, I need you to understand that my ancestors are very near to me and very dear to me. And they have exchanged their breath, and they have passed their breath and their blood on to me. So when you look at me, you're looking at my ancestors. I respect you the same way. I need to also tell you that I grew up during a time where I saw, just as some of you may have seen, my ancestors murdered for trying to give me dignity in the land of my captivity. Not one, not two, not three, not four. It would blow your mind how many of my ancestors who lived and walked in my time became ancestors at rest. And I witnessed it. And that's more real to me. And you have to respect this. That is more real to me than me having to formulate in my mind through sketchy communication, and some of it through jaundiced, slanted language that is not long-sighted and far-sighted and insightful enough to give me the respect of declaring who I am without your assistance. And it reminds me of what my ancestors had to deal with. I had one person, like I say, I enjoyed the video, but they said your ancestors, they were pretty much saying they would be upset with you. And what do you think they're thinking about you when you have forgotten that they died for you? And I need to respectfully say to that person, if my ancestors were slain trying to protect my other ancestors who were their peers or who were their sons and daughters and relatives, if they were slain, those of us who survive today, they're not angry at us for what we don't know. They're not angry at us because in a more sophisticated, brutal, and hidden way, we're dealing with what they deal with or what they dealt with. They're compassionate toward us and they're cheering us on, waiting for us to finish our work. And guess what? Not die. And you know how we know? Because we communicate with our ancestors every day. We see our ancestors when we look in the mirror. I have one of them on my shirt. I drew this. I screen printed this. You recognize him? That's him at 14 years old. That's him at 23. One of my ancestors. One of my ancestors who stood up. One of my ancestors who came to Ghana, Zaire, and was not ashamed to identify himself with his relatives here on the continent. And I love him and I respect him. And I know what this region did to him. That's him, Muhammad Ali. My second cousin was in the ring with him, Bob Foster. People, the last thing so-called black people want to be doing on social media is colonizing one another's imaginations or attempting to. Let a man declare who he is. and then let time unfold and see what side of prophecy that man is on. But that's an elementary way of looking at things. The advanced way of looking at things is, number one, to judge nothing before the time till the Lord come and make manifest the thoughts of men's hearts and prove all things. And number two, get out of the battle of determining anything about any man and declare who you are and watch what it does to the universe, because you will do nothing to the universe stifling the imagination of someone else. If you have a powerful faith, and if you have a mission, and if you believe, then go for it with all that you know and use your energy to discover it in you. But if you do anything other than that, and you're sharing truth with others, then you appear to be the infant and the child of the people who have done it to your ancestors. Matter of fact, I see them all over Africa now. They've declared themselves to be the Latter-day Saints, the Seventh-day Adventists, the Christians, Judaism. I was a Christian pastor for, about 10 years. I was a minister for about 30. All of my uncles and great uncles, and they were in the thing. When I see people over here with a white Jesus, and I mean, if you guys knew what that name Jesus meant and all, okay, I'm not going to get into that because that's something else. When I see this blue-eyed, blonde-haired person, and if you go on my page, you can see me years back, 20 years back, declaring my belief in Jesus and all of that. And I leave those videos there because there's always someone on the level that you can relate to, and then they can look at your evolution and they can walk with you through what they believe to where you are now. But it's going to cost you something if you're going to have that kind of relationship with people. See, he who is wise wins souls and will shine as the stars forever. People who are earnestly looking for truth, they're not interested in what you can mock them with and intimidate them with as you show a pseudo sign of compassion. Some of you in my book, you're not mature enough to be compassionate because you haven't learned enough about your fallibility. While you're young and fresh, effervescent, handsome, or cute, whatever you think and feel about yourself, it's the time to get some oil in your lamp. Because you're not going to be judged based on what you showed everybody that you knew about them. You're going to be judged based on what you know and are fully persuaded in about yourself. This is not a popular message. This is not a message that is well received. But then, if you look over time, that the masses can grab is not the true essence of what the master's message is to his servants. We who are coming out of our captivity to take our place in our Father's creation are far beyond all of the things that you may think when you see a so-called African American, which is a misnomer. There's no such thing as an African American. African and American were labels and titles that were put on both of us. And as I was saying, we who are coming into our place and declaring who we are in a different field. We are on a different level. And we are not saying it is higher than anyone's, but we are saying it is our ground. And it will lead us to our land because we have never had one. And don't invite me into your land without respecting me as having the authority to know who I am, just like you know who you are. I don't know who you are. But now, if when I declare who I am, and you attempt to tell me, especially as a woman, that I am someone else subject to your experience, then I know who I am not supposed to listen to and to give my time to, and I will take it this far. I know who you're speaking for. The trauma of the colonized mind. You don't have to look far. You don't have to even study to see it. Just tune in to your own spirit. That thing that independently has you breathing without anyone's help, without anyone's knowledge, without anyone's take on history. Then open your eyes and behold the spirits that you encounter and see how what they say hits your heart. And then make your determination further who you won't listen to. And reaffirm who you are. Any man that doesn't know who he is and has to be told who he is not worth whatever the person telling him who he is thinks that they can get out of him. You'll have a worthless whatever. If a man, especially a man with gray beard and skinhead, and you got to tell him who he is. A lot of you who believe the Bible was written by a white man, I'll give you this much. The Bible was written, translated by both so-called black men, so-called white men, except there wasn't a whole lot of them around. The Bible is not really an old document, and the Bible is not the word of the Most High. The word of the Most High came in the form of a melanated man with woolly hair and declared to his brothers that what he possessed and who he is them, because they were his blood kin and they were the covenant children of the Father. Now, a lot of you think that is baloney and that is hogwash. And you get to do that. But you know what you don't get to do? You don't get to determine for the people who recognize themselves in that book that is so coded. You don't get to tell them that they are not valid in their belief, their faith, and their knowledge of who they are. And you don't get to dishonor and disrespect their history. Because contrary to what any so-called white man did with the books, he never told us what we see in there. And he did everything he tried to do to hide it. Some of you sitting on this continent and you've never lived at least a year in America, you have no idea of what we feel, what we think, and who we are. And for those of you who deal with the disobedient and arrogant ones of us, don't let it make you jaundice toward those of us who are gracious and who will attempt at any juncture to communicate with you respectfully, without insulting you and without attempting to subjugate your imagination. But know clearly you are dealing with a lion when you try to do any of that to us. We don't despise your heritage. We have history on who we are and who you are and how we're related. But you would trample over us like dogs. You would tear us up like leopards and tigers if we allowed you to disrespect us by looking at us like you are our fathers. There's too much dichotomy. There's too much contention. And when you're coming from that place, you finished yourself. Where there's envying and strife, there's confusion and every evil work. And for those of you who have a problem with the Bible, and the problem that the so-called white man brought it to you, hopefully I can share this with you and it helps you. Experience has taught us that this man always takes what is not his and wastes it or either manipulates it to his advantage and his profit. Now peek the wicked science. What is one of Africa's biggest problems? The self-sabotaging nature of some of their leaders. Same thing we deal with in America. And this is not an atmosphere. And the universe is going to spit you out like a rotten piece of fish if you continue on that narcissistic energy where you can't discover a person by what he reveals to you, instead of trying to contain him by what you presume to know. There's no room for that. And the one who is the father of that has a destiny with hell. And if you think there's not a hell behind the hell that our people are living in, then you're not as smart as you think you are, because that would mean that the people who have died and the people who are about to die, you know, the one who lied on Emmett Till, she died. Wicked Witch, she died. If you don't think there's a hell, then that means the people that are robbing your people right now, the people that are shooting my people in America right now. See, a lot of you don't know about that. You see it on TV, and you saw it. You saw how they choked out George Floyd. They just choked out another brother on a bus, choked him to death. A homeless man, a big old burly Marine that was maybe about 3 or 4 times his size, choked him. He had mental problems. He was hungry. He was weak. He was thin, and the man got behind him, put him in a chokehold, and killed him in front of a lot of people on a subway in New York. We're living this. And then to come over to this continent and to be told who we are and who we are not and what we're ignorant of and what we better get in line with and what our ancestors are upset about. You don't even know how we feel about you. So what makes you think you know how we feel about our ancestors? And what makes you think that our ancestors have anything against us? I despise everyone, living or dead, who has ever harmed my people, my cousins, which from the history I know, that's you. But now you're going to have to pick and choose who you are. You should watch what you say. To men about who they are. And I know most of you, social media is a place for you to mock people who have a difference of opinion. I know. Me, I see in the book, no weapon formed against me shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against me in judgment, I shall condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of their Lord, and their righteousness is of me, says their Lord. Now, I'm not going to say who you are, but I declare myself to be the Lord's servant. You should be careful what you say. The trauma of colonization is displayed all over social media. Peace be upon you. Shalom, shalom. Drops the mic.